Hey up, Poppet. You alright?
Hello and welcome back to Relive the League. We are now on game week 17 and we have an action-packed week for you. But before we go into that, do us a favour and like and subscribe on here. Also pop over to our socials and follow us on there. We're on Twitter and TikTok.
Yeah. Let's just stick the football on for him, Ben.
Let's get straight into it then.
Let's
press that rewind button. Let's go back. Let's relive the league.
All city there.
And first up this week, we have Man United travelling to Highbury to take on the Arsenal. The Red Devils are full of confidence coming into this after smashing Oldham 3-0 last week, with the Gunners falling to a 3-0 defeat against Leeds. Cantona's presence has definitely lifted the United's players' spirits, but they have a tough one today.
Arsenal line up with David Seaman in goal, Tony Adams, Steve Bold, Lee Dixon and Steve Morrow at the back. In midfield are David Hillier, John Jensen, Paul Merson and Anders Limpar, with Kevin Campbell and Ian Wright up front. On the bench are Alan Miller, Mark Flatts and Ray Parler. For Man United, it's Peter Schmeichel in goal, Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, Dennis Irwin and Paul Parker at the back. In midfield, Paul Ince, Brian Robson, Ryan Giggs and Lee Sharp, with Brian McClare and Mark Hughes up front. On the bench, Fraser Digby, Mike Phelan and Andrei Kanchelskis. No place for Cantona yet. A win today will leave United just 2 points off Arsenal, and with the start they've had, that's a hell of a catch-up. Paul Parker losing a test of strength there against John Jensen, but winning the free kick. A free kick which young left-footed wizard Ryan Giggs will take with that trusty left peg. He swings it across, Brian McClare gets up, but it hits the bar. 0-0. It were Giggs that were causing the most issues, and it was all on that left foot. He brought that inside, but somehow chipped it into Rowe's head. Then it was Mark Hughes' turn for a go down the right. This time he ran at Steve Bold on his right foot, went to the byline, hit straight at David Seaman. Finally, it was Arsenal's turn to try and have a go on goal. Kevin Campbell found Anders Limpar, who came inside and gave the ball to number 10, Paul Merson, who loves a run forward, and he did that today and smashed one towards goal. Peter Schmeichel turned it away. Looked like Limpar put Paul Parker under pressure, but he put it safe. It was only United though looking likely to score. You showing great strength there, gave the ball to Paul Ince, who gave it to McClare, who found Giggs, who smashed it against the post. It came out on the wing to Lee Sharp. He stood one up to the back post. Tony Adams jumped under it, and Mark Hughes bundled it home. A great 3 points for United. They're climbing up the table, and this is all before they had that lad Cantona up front, innit? Could be dangerous.
Well, Fergie is a tactical genius. Flashes out over £1 million on Cantona. He's got no intention of playing him, and he knows it's a wake-up call to his strikers. Since Eric came in, both Hughes and McClare have bagged 4 goals between them. And it's not just the strikers that are playing well. We've got Schmeichel and a solid back 4 who look impossible to break down. Brian Robson and Paul Ince pulling all the strings in the middle. Giggsy and Sharp running free on the wings. Man United are looking very good right now. It pains me to say it, but United look good. And next up, we've got Blackburn Rovers taking on Queen's Park Rangers. Well, this is all about Blackburn. With only 1 goal in 5 matches, they're looking for their first win in 6 games. Shearer, despite scoring 16 goals in all competitions so far this season, he has failed to score in 5. Wow. A goal drought if I've ever seen one. Blackburn still sit second in the table. They need to turn it around today.
Blackburn line up with Bobby Mims in goal, a back four of Colin Hendry, Kevin Moran, Alan Wright and Chris Price. In midfield are Gordon Cowans, Tim Sherwood, Jason Wilcox and Stuart Ripley, with Mike Newell and Alan Shearer up front. On the bench are Matt Dickens, Nicky Marker and Roy Wegley. For Queen's Park Rangers, it's Jan Steshkal in goal. At the back are Alan McDonald, Darren Peacock, Clive Wilson and David Bardsley. Andy Impey, Ray Wilkins, Ian Holloway and Andy Sinton are in midfield, with Dennis Bailey and Les Ferdinand up front. On the bench are Tony Roberts, Danny Maddox and Gary Penrice. 3 minutes in, Darren Peacock went through Alan Shearer and nearly snapped his ankle in half. He's writhing round in agony. It doesn't look like he's going to carry on, but the man's got a goal job to stop. And in the 27th minute, Jason Wilcox whipped a free kick in, and there was Shearer to score the goal and show everyone his injured ankle.
Guess who's back? Back again. Shearer's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? 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 That's right, Shearer is back, bagging his 13th Premier League goal of the season, giving Blackburn their first win in 6 and second in the table. Back-to-back defeats now for QPR, but this week is all about one man. Alan Shearer, 1-0. And next up, we've got Middlesbrough travelling to Boundary Park to take on Oldham. The Latics keeper, John Holworth, he will play no part and he could actually miss the rest of the season after he severely damaged the ligaments in his wrist when playing Man United last week. Manager Joe Royle, he has acted quickly by recalling reserve keeper John Keeley from his loan spell at Chester. Middlesbrough will be looking to make it a tough afternoon for the second string goalkeeper as they have gone out and signed a new striker, Craig Hignett, from Crewe this week for £500,000.
Oldham have got John Keeley coming in goal for the injured John Holworth, Steve Redmond, Richard Jobson, Neil Poynton and Gunnar Haller at the back. In midfield are Neil Adams, Mike Milligan, Mark Brennan and Nick Henry, with Ian Olney and Graham Sharp up front. On the subs bench is Paul Gerrard, Paul Bernard and Roger Palmer. For Middlesbrough, it's Stephen Pears in goal, Jonathan Gittins, Derek White, Curtis Fleming and Gary Parkinson at the back. In midfield are Mark Proctor, Robbie Mustoe, Tommy Wright and Craig Hignett, with Paul Wilkinson and Willie Faulkner up front. On the bench are Ian Ironside, Jamie Pollock and Graham Kavanagh. The deadlock were broken on 15 minutes today when Willie Faulkner headed on Gary Parkinson's cross and John Keeley was beaten at his near post. But Oldham responded in the only way they know how, and that's with goals. And after a bit of, well, let's say suspect defending, Gunnar Haller stabbed home to equalise on 21 minutes. And then 3 minutes later, former Everton duo Graham Sharp and Neil Poynton combined to do something that Everton could probably do with a bit more at the minute, and that's score a goal to give Oldham the lead. And then just 4 minutes after that, after a corner came in and a little bit of head tennis and a great save by Stephen Pears, Graham Sharp was there to nod home to make it 3-1 to Oldham. And to make matters worse for Borough, Neil Adams smashed one home from the edge of the box on the hour mark to complete the scoring, and a 4-1 win for Oldham.
Go on, Oldham. 3 goals in 7 first half minutes put the game out of reach for Borough, who have just 1 win in 10 games. Terrible form. A much needed win for Oldham, just their second league win in their last 8 games. A brilliant performance. Well done, Oldham. 4-1. And now we've got the struggling Nottingham Forest, who are rock bottom of the table, hosting Southampton. The Saints are unbeaten in the last 3, so this will be no easy game for Forest, who are desperately trying to get themselves off the foot of the table. And Forest have gone out this week and signed Neil Webb, who jumped straight into the lineup as well after his £800,000 transfer from Man United. Let's see how this action unfolds.
Forest line up with Mark Crossley in goal. Steve Chettle, Carl Tyler, Stuart Pearce and Brian Laws at the back. In midfield, Roy Keane, Scott Gemmell and new man Neil Webb. Nigel Clough and Ian Warren in attacking midfield behind Gary Bannister up front on his own. On the bench, Randy Marriott, Kingsley Black and Lee Glover. For Southampton, it's 5 at the back. Tim Flowers in goal, Richard Hall, Ken Moncow, Mickey Adams, Francis Benali and Jeff Kenner. In midfield are Glenn Cockerill, Terry Hurlock and Neil Maddison, with Matt Letitia behind Ian Dowie up front. On the bench, Ian Andrews, Tommy Widrington and Perry Groves. This is a relegation dogfight, although Southampton are 3 games unbeaten now, and they started off the better side today when Mickey Adams broke down the left and whipped a ball in, and there was Matt Letitia with that trusty old head of his. Have you ever seen him score a header? I haven't, but he made it 1-0. But with 2 minutes to go before half-time, Forest found themselves back in the game after Ian Warren whipped a crossing and Nigel Clough headed on to equalise. That's the state of the two sides at the minute. This is a big point potentially for Forest, but not for Southampton. And after 63 minutes, Perry Groves whipped a ball in, Steve Chettle headed it away, but only as far as Jeff Kenner. He put the ball back in the box, and there was left-back Mickey Adams to give Southampton the lead. There was some late drama though, as Perry Groves and Jeff Kenner combined to bring down Ian Warren in the box. Forest had a penalty, Stuart Pearce hit it, Tim Flowers saved it, leaving the Southampton players and fans ecstatic with 3 points to take back to the Dell.
Wow, Stuart Pearce missing a penalty. Who would have thought that, eh? 3 goals in the game, all scored by headers. Southampton take home all 3 points, and Forest remain bottom. 2-1. And I need to start by wishing Norwich boss Mike Walker a happy 47th birthday. The only gift he wants though is 3 points from his players. The Canaries sit top of the league going into this game, 5 points clear of 4th place Villa. Sean Teal is injured for Villa today, and he has played 70 consecutive games now for Villa. Replacing him though is Hugo Egeorg, a promising young talent, 20 years of age, 6'2", strong and powerful. He's been great for England in the under-21s, so let's see how he goes today.
For Villa, it's Nigel Spink in goal, Brian Small, Hugo Egeorg, Paul McGrath and Earl Barrett at the back. In midfield, Steve Staunton, Gary Parker, Kevin Richardson and Ray Houghton, with Dalian Atkinson and Dean Saunders up front. On the bench are Mark Bosnich, Darius Kavitsky and Cyril Regis. For Norwich, it's Brian Gunn in goal, Ian Butterworth, John Polston, Mark Bowen and Ian Culverhouse at the back, Darryl Such, Ian Crook, David Phillips and Will Fox in midfield, and Darren Beckford and Mark Robbins up front. On the bench are Mark Walton, Gary Megson and Chris Sutton. On 17 minutes, Rule Fox got the ball, came inside, gave the ball to Matt Robbins, he turned on it, gave it to David Phillips, who smashed home beyond Nigel Spink to make it 1-0 to Norwich. That's Phillips' 6th goal of the season now. What a season he's been having. He's definitely my player of the year so far. Not long later, Norwich got a corner, David Phillips swung it in, Mark Robbins headed on goal and produced a great save from Nigel Spink. The league leaders are all over Villa like beans on toast at the moment. It's a great header by Robbins. Actually, it's not that much of a good save by Spink, is it? But the cameras were there. Norwich might have been battering Villa, but Villa were playing awful. Well, proper tackle there. They couldn't string many passes together. Brian Small looked like Bambi on ice. He was running round in circles. Watch this. He don't know where he's going. Played the ball aimlessly back. Big Hugo's on it now. Carmed. He's played it inside. Oh, it's been cut out. It's been intercepted. Darren Beckford's clean through on goal to make it 2. but it's straight at Spink. On the half-hour mark, Norwich got a corner. David Phillips swung it in. Nigel Spink had the easiest of catches. He fumbled it horrendously. Set a feet to Darren Beckford, who poked home to make it 2-0 to Norwich. Let's have another look at this. Straightforward catch. He's dropped it. Oh, he bounced up and he fumbled it again to Robbins. He's in there. I think Beckford got the last touch, but he's claiming it. Look at that, Phillips, player of the season. What a player. Great cross. Awful by Spink. Let's see if we can make head and tail of this. Nah, Beckford's claimed it though. 2-0. Right, first half stoppage time then. Villa have finally got themselves a chance. They've got him a corner. Kevin Richardson's over it. Swings the ball in. Oh, Guns dropped it straight to Saunders. Oh, what a stop that is. Oh, it's offside anyway, but let's watch this by Mark Bowen on the line. Great control by Saunders. Oh, that's superb. From the resulting Brian Gunn, boot forward, still in first half stoppage time. Ugo Ekiog got his head on it, powered it up the field. It eventually found itself with Gary Parker. He played it back to Kevin Richardson. He tried to play a 1-2, but he didn't. Ekiog in the way again. Brilliant at the back there from the youngster. Passes the ball inside, finds Ray Houghton in the centre circle. He drives forward. He's got Earl Barrett with him on the right. He's chose to go on his own and smashed home from 30 yards. What a goal that is by Ray Houghton. Right, second half then. 46 minutes to be precise. Ray Houghton's played the ball up the right to Dalen Atkinson. He's crossed it first time to Saunders. It's gone over his head and found itself with Steve Staunton. He's given the ball back to Brian Small, who's hiked one right across the pitch to Earl Barrett. Give the ball to Ray Houghton. He's played a top chip over the top. Oh, what's Culverhouse doing? And Parker's smashed home to equalise. 1 minute after half time. Villa are level. It's a great chip by Houghton. Culverhouse, oh, you're doing, but it's a great instinctive finish by Parker. Right, 4 minutes later, 49 minutes on the clock. Daryl Such has got the ball. He's running down the wing, cut inside to Rule Fox with some magic wizardry with his feet there. Wow. Back to Such, first time finish across the goal and into the far post to give Norwich the lead, 3-2. Sorry, I was a little bit mesmerised there by Rule Fox's feet. Let's see if we can get another look at that. Such plays in the ball in. Oh, Rule. And a top finish by Daryl Such.
Well, we certainly had a thriller at Villa. An 11th win of the season for Norwich, stretching the lead at the top of the table to 5 points. Despite only their third loss of the season in 17 games, Villa remain in fourth. 3-2 Norwich. And now we've got Liverpool taking on Crystal Palace. Last season, Palace did the double over Liverpool, so we'll be looking at continuing their great run of form against the Redmen. Eddie McGoldrick looks set to play sweeper, despite his great record as a striker. A striker playing as a defender? What's all that about? Palace, they also must wish that games only lasted 75 minutes, as they have conceded 9 goals now in the last 15 minutes of games this season, accounting for a loss of 9 points. So it's not a surprise to see why they are sat second from bottom. Surely this is a home banker if I've ever seen one, as Liverpool have turned that terrible form from the start of the season around, and they are looking good now.
The superstars the mighty Liverpool have selected today are Mike Hooper in goal. At the back, Danish international Torben Picnic and Steve Nicol, with David Burrows on the left and Rob Jones on the right. In midfield are Mike Marsh and Jamie Redknapp, with Steve McManaman on the right wing and John Barnes on the left wing. Don Hutchison and Ronnie Rosenthal up front. On the bench are Bruce Grobbelaar, Mark Wright and Paul Stewart. And for Palace, well, Steve Coppell's thrown up a bit of a mystery. Again, not quite sure of the formation, but the lineup is as follows. Nigel Martin in goal. John Humphrey, who's a defender. Andy Thorne, a defender. Eric Young, a defender. Richard Shaw, a defender. Lee Sinnott, defender. Gareth Southgate, defender. Eddie McGoldrick, playing at sweeper, seemingly, leaving Simon Osborne in midfield, and Paul Williams and Chris Armstrong up front. On the bench are Andy Woodman, Chris Coleman, and Georgian Dar. Liverpool started strong and really put Palace's 7 defenders to the test. After 7 minutes, John Barnes led 3 of them on a merry dance on the edge of the box, whipped a ball in, and somehow Steve McManaman found some space within the rest of them and put Liverpool 1-0 up. It really is good by Barnes. How Liverpool have missed him. A minute later, Mike Marsh went on a run down the right. He had time to dawdle on it, cut inside, whip a ball in to the unmarked Don Hutchison, who, well, his radar wasn't on. Anyway, the next minute, 9 minutes in, Mike Marsh fired in from 35 yards, potentially the goal of the season so far. 2-0 to Liverpool. Let's have a look at this again. Absolute thundergibbon. Then on 19 minutes, Don Hutchison played a 1-2 off John Barnes' shin by an Eddie McGoldrick tackle. He whipped a ball forward. Lee Sinnott tried to head it behind for a corner. Nigel Martin forgot, well, everything, and left Steve McManaman free to walk into the box and tap home to make it 3-1 to Liverpool. No idea what Martin's doing there. No idea. I'm putting it down to the back pass rule, foggy in keepers' minds, but yeah, 3-1. Liverpool tried to push for the 4th before half-time, and youngster Jamie Redknapp picking out a pearler of a ball there for fellow youngster Steve McManaman, who ran at the defence and produced a tame shot. But the future's looking bright at Liverpool. Just after the hour, Rob Jones got muscled off the ball out on the right. It fell to Mike Marsh, who played in Steve McManaman. He put a first-time ball in, and Ronnie Rosenthal fired home to make it 4-1. John Barnes was pulling the strings, and he'd done everything so far but get a goal. He had a chance from a free kick a short while later, but Nigel Martin did well to pop it over the bar. Everything was going through Barnes, and he was desperate for a goal. I genuinely thought we were going to see another Brazil goal there, but he played the ball forward to Jamie Redknapp. He gave the ball to McManaman, who whipped it in, and Barnes headed wide. You'd think with a 7-man defence to be able to keep things watertight, but the chances kept raining in. There's Steve McManaman nearly nodded home a Mike Marsh corner. Then John Barnes got the ball again on the edge of the box. He didn't cross this time. He found David Burrows, who crossed the ball. There was Don Hutchison again to head it wide again. On 72 minutes after a Mike Marsh throw-in, Steve McManaman held the ball up well, laid it back to Jamie Redknapp. He gave it back to Mike Marsh. He whipped the ball in with his left. It found itself with Don Hutchison, who smashed home to make it 5-0 to Liverpool. 3rd time lucky for Don. Thank God it didn't land on his head this time. Terrible display from Palace. They've come with 7 defenders. They've ended up shipping 5 goals and created nought.
And it was Palace wearing the yellow kit that resembled Brazil, but it was Liverpool who played like them. 5 goals, a clean sheet, John Barnes taking no time to find his fine form. Crystal Palace will not be looking forward to coming back here in midweek in that Coca-Cola Cup game they've got, and nor will Everton be looking forward to the Merseyside derby next weekend. 5-0 to Liverpool. And next up, we've got Sheffield United taking on Coventry City. The Blades only just lost out last week against league leaders Norwich City when they lost 2-1. Another similar performance like that today, it might just see them beat the Sky Blues, as they are looking for their first league win in 9 games. Coventry are struggling after their great start to the season, aren't they? Let's see how it goes today.
Sheffield United line up with Alan Kelly in goal, Paul Beasley, John Pemberton, Tom Cowan and Carl Bradshaw at the back. In midfield are John Gannon, Paul Rogers, Mitch Ward and Glyn Hodges, with Alan Cork and Brian Dean up front. On the bench, it's just Chris Kamara and Adrian Littlejohn. For Coventry, as always, Steve Grizovic in goal. At the back, Andy Pearce, Phil Babb, Peter Atherton and Brian Burrows. In midfield are Lee Hurst, Stuart Robson, Robert Rosario and Kevin Gallagher, with Peter Unlove and new signing Mickey Quinn up front. On the bench are Jonathan Gould, Peter Billing and John Williams. Mickey Quinn is what you describe as a goal machine. He scored 2 last week on his debut, and after 7 minutes today, after a beautiful long ball forward by Steve Grizovic, he raced onto the ball and smashed home to make it 1-0 to Coventry. On 37 minutes, Paul Rogers beat Lee Hurst in the air, played a 1-2 with Mitch Ward, got the ball back, crossed it in, and Andy Pearce belted it into his own net. 1-1. On 75 minutes, despite being on a yellow already, Carl Bradshaw went right through Peter Runlove and got his second yellow and his marching orders. Dave Bassett, though, he didn't agree. He let emotions get the better of him and got in the ear of Philip Don. Deserves a disciplinary action, but he didn't. Bobby Gould calmed him down, said he didn't want him to get a fine. And Philip Don said he's not going to take any action for some reason.
Mickey Quinn has started his career at Coventry on fire. 3 goals in 2 games. It wasn't quite enough to get Coventry their first win in 9, though, as a strange own goal put a stop to that. Well done, Andy Pearce. Point shared, 1-1. And next up, we've got Man City taking on Tottenham. Spurs started the season with a very leaky defence. They even conceded 5 goals in 1 game to Leeds earlier in the season. But they've worked hard on that, and they've not conceded now for 4 matches. Can they make it 5? City, well, they've bagged 10 goals in the last 3 games, so Spurs will need to hold strong today.
Man City line up with Tony Coton in goal, David Brightwell, Keith Curle, Terry Phelan and Andy Hill at the back. In midfield, Steve McMahon, Fitzroy Simpson, Rick Holden and David White, with Niall Quinn and Mike Sherrin up front. On the bench are Martin Margetson, Peter Reid and Gary Flitcroft. For Tottenham, it's Norwegian Erik Torsvedt in goal, Neil Ruddock, Gary Mabbott, Justin Edinburgh and Stone Cold Dean Austin at the back. In midfield is David Howells, Vinnie Samways, Kevin Watson and Naeem, with Nicky Barmby and Teddy Sheringham up front. On the bench are Ian Walker, Jason Cundy and Paul Moran. Not much to report from Main Road today until 13 minutes from time when Teddy Sheringham started a breakaway from the edge of his own box. He found the Spaniard Naeem, who looked up and pinged a 40-yard ball across the field to Kevin Watson. He tried to cross the ball, it hit Terry Phelan on the head and went in the goal. It's unfortunate, but not for Tottenham. It's a vital 3 points for them. Let's look at it one more time. He can't do anything about it. He's just tickled it. That's Tony Coton.
Well, a messy on goal by the City left-back, Terry Phelan, hands the 3 points to Spurs in what was a very scrappy game. City are now 7th, with Spurs up to 12th, and only 3 points separating the two. 1-0 to the Tottenham. And next up, we've got Sheffield Wednesday playing the Wimbledon side, who have only won once in 9 games and have scored just 1 goal in the last 5. Surely this is a straightforward win for the Owls.
Wimbledon line up with Hans Sagers in goal, Roger Joseph, Dean Blackwell, John Scales and Warren Barton at the back. In midfield are Brian McAllister, Paul Miller, Vinnie Jones and Laurie Sanchez, with Robbie Earle behind Dean Oldsworth up front. On the bench are Neil Sullivan, Paul McGee and Terry Gibson. For Sheffield Wednesday is Chris Woods in goal, Paul Warhurst, Nigel Worthington, Viv Anderson and Roland Nielsen at the back. In midfield, Danny Wilson, John Sheridan, Chris Waddle and Chris Bart-Williams, with David Hurst and Mark Bright up front. On the bench are Kevin Pressman, Peter Shirtliff and John Arks. Under 6,000 in attendance at Sellers Park today to watch Wimbledon, and well, they didn't miss much. A decent ball there by Chris Waddle laying in Chris Bart-Williams though on 17 minutes to make it 1-0 to Sheffield Wednesday, and it looked like it was going to be like that all the way until the end, but Wimbledon got a corner in the last minute. Laurie Sanchez headed it and something happened on the line. The ref was certain somebody handballed it, but he didn't know who. We later found out it was John Sheridan, but he couldn't make a determination on who it was, so he couldn't send anyone off. So he stayed on the pitch, and Vinnie Jones smashed home to equalise for Wimbledon. Who better to explain the situation than the man himself, today's referee, with his gentleman's mullet, Mr. Roger Milford.
Well, after Chris Wood saved the ball, I thought I saw a yellow shirt handle the ball on the line, pushed the ball away, so I gave a penalty. Before I could make him mind out who it was on the line, pushed it away, because they would have been sent off. I was surrounded by about 20 players, so I just couldn't make up my mind who it was. The linesman also agreed with me it was a handball on the line, but he also didn't know who it was.
Wow. Just wow. Only one league win in 8 for Everton, who are struggling in front of goals too. They come up against draw specialists Ipswich Town. Surely not another draw. Surely not.
Ipswich line up with Clive Baker in goal. Phil Whelan, David Linnigan, Neil Thompson and Mick Stockwell at the back. In midfield are Geraint Williams, Jason Dezelle, Gavin Johnson and Steve Whitton, with Paul Goddard and Chris Kawami up front. On the bench are Jason Winters, Steve Palmer and Eddie Youds. For Everton, Neville Southall in goal, Alan Harper, Gary Ablett, Martin Keown and Dave Watson at the back. In midfield are Andy Hinchcliffe, Ian Snowden, Billy Kenny and Peter Beardsley, with Stuart Barlow and Tony Cottee up front. On the bench are Jason Caton, Robert Varziker and Paul Rideout. No action in the first half today, but Everton thought they might have sneaked one after Ian Snowden fired a quick free kick on goal from 40 yards and it went under Clive Baker, but comically wide. Then, after 72 minutes, Mick Stockwell got the ball on the right. He cut inside and ran towards goal, played the ball in the box. An intelligent flick by Jason Dezelle found Gavin Johnson at the back post to fire home to make it 1-0 to Ipswich.
Far from a classic at Portman Road. The Ipswich fans were delighted to see all 3 points rather than just the usual one. Everton, they are in a crisis at the minute, slipping into the bottom 4 and looking very, very poor. 1-0 Ipswich. And the final game of the week is the Super Sunday game, where Chelsea take on the champions of England, Leeds United at Stamford Bridge. Leeds have not kept a clean sheet away since April and not won away from Ellen Road in the league all season. Plenty of grumbles and protests towards Howard Wilkinson for selling Eric Cantona, but let's see how the new era begins without the Frenchman.
Chelsea line up with Kevin Hitchcock in goal, Frank Sinclair, David Lee, Mal Donaghy and Gareth Hall at the back, with Eddie Newton, Andy Townsend, Dennis Wise and Graham Stewart in midfield. Robert Fleck and Mick Harford up front. On the bench are Nick Colgan, Erland Johnson and Graham Lasso. For Leeds is John Lukic in goal, Chris Fairclough, Chris White, Tony DeRigo and John Newsom at the back, with Gary McAllister, Gordon Strachan, Gary Speed and David Rocastle in midfield, with Rod Wallace and Lee Chapman up front. On the bench are Mervyn Day, Ray Wallace and Carl Shutt. First action to note today was in the 86th minute when Chelsea got themselves a throw-in. Gareth Hall threw it in, it went to Graham Stewart who gave the ball back to Hall, he crossed in, Dennis Wise got the better of John Newsom and laid in Andy Townsend to smash home to win it for Chelsea. A great ball in by Hall, superb strength by the big man Wise, and a great finish by the Irishman.
Well, that was far from a Super Sunday. 86 minutes of very little action. What a snooze fest. Andy Townsend bagged his 4th goal of the season to send Chelsea up to 5th place in the table. 1-0.
Right then, that brings us to the end of episode 17 and game week 17 of ReLive the League. Let's have a look at the league tables. I've got the glamorous one today, the lower half, where all the dross was. Oldham got a win, Southampton got a win, Tottenham got a very lucky win, thanks to Terry Phelan and Man City. Wimbledon a good point there in the bottom 3, but they were only 1 point behind the Super Toffees now. And as we transition into the top half with my friend Ben.
I'll take over, and I've got Norwich remaining at the top of the table. Well, that's their 11th win of the season, Mike. 11 wins in 17.
We're going all the way.
Flying.
Them or Villa.
Well, it's a long way to go. Yeah, we've got Blackburn leapfrogging Arsenal after the Gunners lost for the 2nd week running. We've got great wins for Chelsea and Liverpool. Man U still way off it, 9 points off the lead. And Coventry really slipping down the table after being up there
I
at the
genuinely
start of
thought
the
they were in the
season.
top 5.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they've gone. Someone shot them.
It's gone. Don't slack.
And onto the goal scorers list, Mike.
Yeah, tell us about all these goals this week, Ben.
So we've got a huge list of names there, and only one of them scored this week, and that was Super Alan Shearer.
There you go.
13th goal in the
Yeah.
Premier League this season.
Not firing him in. But yeah.
And that draws us to a close.
It does, on that bombshell. I suppose we'll see you again.
We will see you next week, guys.
We will. Bye-bye now. See you later.